first-time event by the, what are they called? Retail Alliance of Downtown Shelton. They started off with 50 grab bags for $10 each. All the proceeds benefited. Oh, no, my mind just went blank.
A good cause?
Community Lifeline. Thank you, Steve. And they weren't sure, a little nervous, weren't sure how it was going to go over. And what do you know, they sold out one place in 4 minutes and one place in 5 minutes. So it was a huge success for a good cause. I think everyone had a great time. And it went to Community Lifeline, which is a very good cause as well. So that was great. And then today, I had lots of fun with a few of my friends, and Gordon was there, beginning the salvage operations over at the dispatch office, the former Simpson Railroad dispatch office. And so I spent the afternoon battling heat and spiders and dust. And it's amazing how many artifacts we are going to be able to salvage from there. So if anybody out there would like to volunteer for the next effort and or has any storage space for us to store this until we can recreate a dispatch office, it would be much appreciated. Contact me. So tomorrow, I am going to attend the League of Women Voters regular meeting. And if you remember, during the last campaign especially is the most I have ever had this topic come up, but they're going to be presenting a study on municipal forms of government and commission versus council and how the different forms of government work. So that meeting is at noon up at Olympic Community College Library. Former Commissioner Michelson is one of the presenters, so I'm going to be attending that. I also have a Mason Transit Authority Executive Board meeting tomorrow. On Wednesday night, I'm going to be attending the Retail Alliance of Downtown Shelton's meeting. On Thursday morning, I have a downtown visioning meeting. I'm going to also Thursday morning and afternoon attend some pre-submission meetings here at the Civic Center. And on Friday, I am planning to attend the Beyond High School presentations by the senior class at Shelton High School. And that's it for this week.
Thank you. Commissioner McDowell.
Wednesday, I have the legislative breakfast at Alderbrook Clubhouse. Dan Griffey will be there, Drew McEwen, Tim Sheldon. And Thursday, my weekly briefing with Vicki this week. I have my CareNet board meeting on Thursday. Friday, I will be attending at the high school the exit presentation for the high school seniors. That's early, 7 a.m.
I know.
And Saturday, I'm going to venture over to another town, and I'm going to go to the Art Walk in Olympia and see what's going over there. So that's my week.
All right, thank you. And Wednesday morning, I will also be attending that legislative breakfast, I think sponsored by the Economic Development Council out at Alderbrook. It's a chance for us to talk to our state legislators about the past year and possibly about activities coming up to the future year. I did want to talk a little bit on last Thursday. I drove to Bellevue, and I went to the Bellevue City Hall, a very beautiful place. I mean, just real nice and very professional. And what the reason for me going there is that I'm part of a group of statewide, mainly mayors, but also staff people from different cities to discuss the topic of drug abuse and homelessness. And this is the second meeting that I've gone to in order to come together and discuss what each of us are doing in our cities to combat this problem. And I think it was time well spent because you're in a room with all the other cities that are going through the same kinds of situations we are. And you get it when you're outside of your city, sometimes you get some very opinions or some different ideas on how to deal with the situation. And one thing that I thought was kind of neat that I learned, but I'm not positive that we can afford to do it with the city of Shelton, is that on what they have is some cities have basically a medical person that is trained in mental abuse and mental conditions, that actually if they get a call on a homeless person or somebody that's having a drug problem, that they send this medical staff with the policeman. So instead of just a policeman going out and going, okay, you're acting funny, I'm going to take you to the emergency ward, or I'm going to take you to jail, they now have a medical staff person that shows up on that scene, and they deal with that. And I thought that was kind of neat. I don't know. I think the county might be entertaining this possibility, along with I think they're going to be looking at having a house, possibly, that for some mental issue type things. But I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. So rather than just sending the police alone on some of the drug calls, they actually sent a medical trained person to go and deal with that. The other thing is that a lot of the cities, for example, in King County, the homeless issue has risen 20% the year before last, and it rose another 20%, I think, last year. So over 50%, I think, for both the 2 years. And it's a big deal over there. And so we're not Seattle, so we have to deal with it, on a small city, and so on how they deal with it and how we deal with it. I mean, but I think that they're starting to get a handle on it there. The other thing that they are doing is together, it says we are lobbying our state representatives to let them know that we need money in the smaller cities and any of the cities to help figure out how we are going to deal with this drug addiction problem and mental problem and homelessness problem. And so I think that there will be a movement to try and find more funds to put into our communities to take care of some of these issues that really weren't that big a few years ago, but it is definitely the major issue facing all of the cities across the state is mental issues and the homeless issues. Mental, a lot of it coming from drugs and especially methamphetamines and things like that. So one size doesn't fit all. What big cities do and what small cities do are different things. But one thing that they did seem to have in common is that they are leaning heavy on the faith-based communities. Faith-based communities, the churches, and nonprofits are where a lot of help is coming through. So that was my day over in Bellevue last Thursday, and that completes our weekly commission reports. Next is a general public comment period where we allow people from the public to speak. And so, did we have somebody to speak?
We do. The first person is Randy Churchill.
Randy Churchill, West 3517 Shelton Matlock Road. And I'm here to address the commissioners on a topic. It's a grassroots project that we've started. And we started it, and Mason County has adopted it and approved, and it is now displayed. And that's displaying our national motto, "In God We Trust," in the chambers. It's a grassroots project, as I explained. There will be no expense to the city, no expense to the taxpayer, other than from donations from our party. We will, in fact, work with you on whatever design you would like to see, wherever you would like to have it placed, and we will work with you on that and at our expense. To give you a little bit of history on this, Francis Scott Key in 1814 wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. The last verse, third to the last stanza was, "And this be our motto, in God be our trust." Act of Congress, January 18th, 1837, prescribed this motto should be placed on coins of the United States of America. July 11th, 1955, President Eisenhower signed into Public Law 140, making it mandatory that all coinage and paper currency display this motto. 1956, President Eisenhower signed into law officially declaring "In God We Trust" as our national motto. To keep up with the heritage, to keep up with America, we are asking the commissioners to allow us to work with you to place "In God We Trust" here in the commissioners' chambers. We've done it at the county level. There's been great support for it, and I think that for America's sake, I think we need to do that. I just ask commissioners to consider this, talk about this and let us know if we can work with you to do that. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Did we have anybody else?
Howard Spear.
Howard Spear.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would address the same issue, and I realize that God is the source of every good and perfect gift and the one on whom we depend. And it's really wise for us to realize that we're responsible to Him for our words and our actions. And so it's a good thing to have reminders, and so I see this being posted as a good reminder that we are really responsible to a higher being instead of just our own personal choices. Alexander Solzhenitsyn was very aware of the trials and troubles in Russia, and he recalled as a youth hearing his older people talking about, well, there sure is a lot of trouble here. How has that all come about? Why is it? And their final conclusion would be, it's because we have forgotten God. And I believe that many of our troubles in our country stem from the same issue. So I would just encourage the Commission to consider this carefully, and we would like this to be a benefit to all the decisions here as well as to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If anybody else would like to speak, some people came in late, speak about this subject, this would be the opportunity because we're hearing people talk. And so you just have to come up and sign in your name if somebody wanted to say anything about this subject or any subject, actually. Just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Phil Wilson. Thank you for allowing me to come and address you. I'd like to start just by quoting our Declaration of Independence, and that is, all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that governments are instituted to protect these rights. So I just want you to consider that when we're talking about this issue. Government actually exists under God. Whether we acknowledge that or not, that is what our constitutional founders have said. So I guess if you're going to vote against this, you're going to have to say you're voting against what our constitutional founders believed. And of course, not only them, but all the people that went out and fought the war of independence as well. So if you're willing to do that, then you go ahead and vote against that. Thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't thinking about voting against it. I was thinking about voting for it, but anyway. That's what I was leaning towards. So anyway, anybody else want to talk about this issue or any other issues? This is the public comment period. Okay, there's another opportunity later in the meeting. I think what we'll do is, yep, okay. We just sign your name for the record. I wouldn't want the county to be one up on us on something like that.
There you go.
I mean, if the county can do it, we can do it too.
That's right. Join in with it.
Why not?
Display your American heritage.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Brooks Sparrow, and I just want to mention I'm in support of this In God We Trust too. I work out at the Indian tribe, the Squaxin Indian tribe, and they know what I stand for out there. And a lot of times I get asked to pray, and I pray for certain things, stuff like that. But it's kind of nice to have something to know that that it's a protected area and people around the tribe are mindful of that. And so, yeah, I would like to say I really am in support of the thing with the "In God We Trust." So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Any more comments? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our consent agenda. Are we prepared for the reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, could we please have a reading of the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 11390 through 11501 in the amount of $331,820.74. Payroll warrants numbered 1865 through 2007 and 11364 through 11387 in the amount of $640,012.06. Commission meeting minutes from business meeting of April 4th, 2016, study session of April 11th, 2016, executive session of April 13th, 2016, reappointment of Mr. Dave Salzer, Ms. Kathleen Waugh, and Mr. Bill Busaka to the City of Shelton Historic Preservation Board for a term of 3 years ending December 31st, 2019.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda for April 18th, 2016.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda passes. I'm going to go back for just a second on what, Randy, you presented to us, and what I think the proper thing is for us to have a discussion with our city administrator about what you're proposing. Maybe talk to the county a little bit, kind of find out how, what they think about it, or how it's going, or what they're planning to do. And then within a week or two, I think we could get back and probably entertain your desire, so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate that this is absolutely no cost to the city, no cost to anybody. We are willing to step forward and pay for it ourselves. And I think it'd be fantastic. I mean, we have to be reminded who's in control over our country. And it's God. It's not any of us. If we have government in control, government can take away our rights. They can. I mean, and they do all the time, as you know. But if God we trust, He has our inalienable rights to stand there and give them to us. So, and that's where we have to stand. Thank you.
We will be in touch with you. I'll have my people get in touch with your people.
I would also like to have maybe more input from the community at large. I am definitely a Christian, but I have a little bit of anxiety over mixing church and state. So I would need to definitely look at this more and study this more and get some more input before I would be comfortable with this. So a couple more weeks, we'll have time.
And again, it's our national motto. It should be displayed no matter what. Whether God's in there or not.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. We'll we have the little thing where we don't usually have the conversation. We have the times and all that stuff. So I've heard your point. We will talk to our city administrator about it. We'll see what we need to do. Thank you for coming and thank you for your input. Okay, now I'm going to go on to old business. Old business. And at this time, we have Mr. Steve Goins is going to present something to us about, it looks like our comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Just briefly as some background, we're in the process of a comprehensive update of our comprehensive plan. This particular cycle is a periodic update that's mandated by the state. We're reviewing all the different elements and trying to get the plan current, adopting new projections for population and a number of things that are part of this update. In order to provide that to the commission, we're providing the different elements and pieces over time. Tonight, we're re-reviewing the economic element and the county-wide planning policies, and that's the process we'll continue to use until you've basically reviewed the entire document. We'll come back at a later time and ask you to consider that entire document, knowing that over time you've reviewed those different pieces. And there'll also be elements of this time we spend discussing development regulations that we need to modify that are a result of the different policy changes we've made and we've considered, or that because the legislation has been updated and we need to be current with that, we need to make those kind of changes. So tonight is a re-review, if you will, of the economic element and the countywide planning policies. The economic element that's in your packet is identical to the version that we initially reviewed. Again, I'm looking for whatever comments you might have on what that contains. In this particular case, we have an element that was initially drafted in 2012. So it's not 20 years old. It's relatively recent. But there were some modifications made to have it read more current than it did in 2012. We were sort of in the trough of a recession then. Things are a little different now. And there's some different factors that we might want to be looking at moving forward that could be part of that update. The more significant changes are the countywide planning policies. Those were initially crafted in, I believe, 1992. They are very old. It's a lot of material, I realize, but if you look at it closely, most of it is being stricken. That is, it's being removed, and there's various reasons for that. When those policies were crafted, we did not have a Shelton urban growth area plan. We had sub-area plans for areas of the county like South Mason, Hartstein, North Mason, and the county has since either moved away from those different sub-area plans or adopted other plans like for Belfair and Allen. So a number of those policies really don't apply to the county's policy document. Most of them have been stricken. Some changes were proposed and made, and rather than incorporating those policies into our comprehensive plan, what we're leaning more toward now is an approach that, like was taken the last update we did. These policies are adopted by reference, so they're part of an appendix. There's a number of documents that support what our policy document says, and that would be one of those. But so they don't get forgotten, I'm going to take the time to reference different policies in our comprehensive plan that sort of mirror or point to those countywide planning policies, so someone can look at that and go, why do we have a policy about this? Well, maybe it's because there's a countywide planning policy that correlates to that, and be able to make that connection. So the next version you see, that's the approach I'm likely to take, and that will likely be more apparent when you see the entire document as how that works. But I think that would be much more applicable than having a number of documents that may or not even apply to the city of Shelton incorporated in our comprehensive plan. So in summary, there's no action anticipated tonight. I'm still just providing information and looking for feedback as we assemble this entire document over time. So that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? I gave a little feedback to Steve about it, and I've talked to him a few times about it. It looks real good, very professional, and I see you're striking out all of the dated pieces.
Right.
So we're not going to put a
Very
new
good.
swimming pool in our parking lot.
Not
Yeah,
anytime
that was
soon.
an idea back in 1992, but just kidding. We're not going to put the swimming pool there. So, okay, next is item number 2. It is another item under old business, and it's an issue concerning some black rock. And so I believe that's going to be presented to us by Steve Goins.
I'm pinch hitting for our Public Works Director, Greg Clark, on this item. I believe you reviewed this last week. This is a request for a standard contract to provide vendor services for rock. This is rock they would use for various construction practices. In summary, the Public Works Department sought bids from a number of local entities out of the Municipal Research Small Works roster. They received 2 bids. I think you had the bid breakdown in your packet. What was absent, I believe, last time was the actual contract, which you have now. That is our boilerplate contract, And it's also a local entity, which we are pretty pleased about as well. So our request is that you would authorize the city manager to make any budget modifications and accept the contract.
Okay, well, we kind of almost did that last week, but we just didn't have the contract in front of us, so we've already been through the issue. It was going to go on the consent agenda. We put it under old business, and so we've been kind of versed on this a little bit, but it appears that if the commission concurs, what we're going to do is approve the a request to approve the contract for the Black Rock Kennedy Creek Quarry, and I request a motion.
That's correct.
Is that with the administrator or the mayor to sign?
I believe the mayor should sign this.
I don't see that in my fine print. All three commissioners to sign. Okay, so I'm requesting a motion.
I move that we approve the request to award Kennedy Creek Quarry the contract for Black Rock and authorize the city administrator to make any budget modifications necessary.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve this contract. All those in favor signify, is there any further discussion? I'll wait, Vicki Look is making and authorize the mayor to sign the contract. Okay. There's a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The contract passes. Very good. All right, now that is moving us into a new business, and we have a guest speaker here tonight from the fire department, and we'd like to welcome him to our meeting.
How are we today?
Very good.
Nice and warm outside. You ready for wildland season?
Hey.
We're here for you, but just in
Could
case.
you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Tim McCurran, Fire Chief, Central Mason Fire at EMS. So I want to chat with you a little bit, give you some statistics background on some responses. Last year, Central Mason did 5,190 responses, and the city of Shelton is responsible for 2,458 of those. That's 47%, which is outstanding for that particular issue. What's interesting, though, is of those, EMS accounts for 73% of those responses, and that's why I'm here tonight to talk to you about, and that is that it's time to renew our EMS levy. Keeping in mind that the statutes state for an EMS levy, it can be a 6-year, a 10-year, or a permanent levy, and what the city has done, as well as the district has done, has elected to go with a 6-year levy, gives a chance and opportunity for citizens to vote, and so that's what's going on for that particular one. Currently, the EMS levy is currently at 34 cents, which brings in somewhere right around $200,000 into the general for the city. And the recommendation from staff back to you folks is that the city of Shelton and Central Mason have been now together since 2008. And it's time that we're starting to talk more. We're trying to look forward to some kind of consolidation of services. We've been together for so long, we can obviously see the positive outcome that's occurring, and certainly with that time, and I think we're probably looking at an annexation in sometime maybe in 17. So the recommendation from staff is that we take that levy from 34 cents to 50 cents. Still a renewal, but it's taking it up to the full 50 cents. So the proposal and the plan for you folks is that we would actually end up putting two resolutions on the ballot, one of which for August for 50 cents, and due to the fact that the due dates for the primary, for the general is August 2nd, the same day as the primary, we're recommending that you also put a secondary resolution on the ballot, and that one would be at 35 cents, and things would say status quo as well at 34 cents. So those are kind of the resolutions on how things work with EMS. It's interesting, you may mention, if I can segue a little bit to what you saw in Bellevue, and that we are actually, the county is looking at something similar to that. But what the county is kind of looking for is what we call, it's a community-based paramedic service. And we ran a study in November where we actually did that. We actually went out and saw patients that have been discharged from Mason General for 48 hours, took a look at those folks, and we were looking for readmission, so to see if we could get them not to be readmitted back to Mason General. It also cuts down on our 911 responses, cuts down on our EMS responses. We ended up with about 14 of the 50 patients that we saw, and things were looking really, really good. That's not just something, I mean, in Washington State, the community paramedic program is being looked at everywhere. Currently, right now, I know that in Puyallup, they're running a paramedic unit and a mental health professional on their units as well. And they're right on, what Bellevue's doing is right on spot with where we're going to be. And I know we've got a huge group of folks. which are all the fire service, EMS, senior services, Mason General, that are getting together pretty much every 2-week basis so that we could find funding to solve this truly need that we have in the community as well, so.
I had a question for you.
Sure.
Okay, just one second. Let me understand, I was under the impression, and maybe this is right or wrong, but that we're asking the voters in August for a 50 cent.
Correct.
If that passes, we won't ask for the other.
Correct, we will cancel the general as well. What it does do, though, is it does, with the 50 cents, actually puts you identical to Central Mason, so that as we move for annexation, it's a complete transition all the way across. Won't be any change whatsoever with it at all.
Any other questions for our fire chief?
Tim, is this a new thing where you're going and checking on people several weeks after?
It's new from the standpoint, it got brought up in the legislature about a year ago, but it's going to take a few other changes, only from the standpoint of, because it's really going outside the box for our paramedics in town, so it takes a legislative action to let them authorize them to do so. So I know our next mission that they're going to tackle, not only the mental health issue, but Mason General is a huge wound care issue, and so what we're trying to do is to see if we can't reduce the wound care readmissions to Mason General by 10%. And so I know that's the next focus that we're working on right now. So it's out there. It's certainly willing to do that. It's just that all the parties have to put all the parties have to put the money in the grant funds and all of that. And I know Rural Health is certainly looking at those, and we'll certainly keep our eyes and ears open as we get closer to that program.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Make a
It's
few
a
house
need.
calls.
Yep, absolutely.
Stay there for a second, don't escape, because just in case we want any more questions, you won't
Yes,
have
sir,
to
I won't
get it up,
escape.
Okay, because in my fine print here, it appears that we need to request a motion.
You could do it this time, or we could put it on the consent agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, then what we'll do is, I believe, we'll just follow the bigger fine print. And what we'll do is we'll ask that if we concur to go ahead and place this EMS levy on the consent agenda for April 25th. Do we concur with that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sounds like you got fans in the room there.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your presentation.
You bet.
All right, moving right along, we had a new bit of information that came to us hot off the press, and this is concerning a bucket truck. And so I believe Vicki Look is going to give us some information about it.
I am. I'm going to take this one for Greg Clark, our Public Works Director. And what I'll do is I'll read the briefing that they presented today. It has a little bit of a time crunch. That's why we're bringing it forward today. And so the request is to purchase a used 2003 International bucket truck from PUD number 3 that would replace our existing aging bucket truck. The city currently owns a 1991 truck which is past its useful life, increasingly in need of repairs, and has limits to its operations, safety features, maneuverability, and reach. Recently, PUD contacted the city with an opportunity to purchase certain surplus vehicles, which includes the above referenced 2003 International bucket truck. And after discussions with the PUD's lead mechanic and inspection of the vehicle, the Public Works staff recommended the purchase of the used truck to replace the EM&R owned 1991 truck. The newer model has fewer miles, better safety features, and has an additional 15 feet of lift, which will significantly improve the safety of operation and versatility of function. Prior to insertion into the fleet, the truck will be given a thorough safety inspection by our staff. The funds are available in the 2016 EM&R budget for the purchase, and then the existing truck would be surplus to recoup a partial cost of this. The cost, of course, if I didn't mention it, was $7,595. If you needed more information, you could contact the Public Works Department. But we're asking that the commission allow staff to move forward in the negotiation of purchasing the surplus bucket truck and authorize the city administrator to make any necessary budget modifications.
Maybe this is one where it looks like we need a motion.
Yes,
Yes.
please. And
Okay.
any questions, if you have them.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
Maybe between the two of us, we could
I mean,
answer them.
extra 15 feet is good, and a newer
Yes.
model, and the price looks awfully less than a used Hugo. So it's like a good deal, and the money's in the budget. So I would request a motion at this time.
I will
make a motion to purchase the 2003 truck for $7,595 from the PUD 3's, from PUD 3. And then we will take our old truck and part it out and get some money back.
And authorize the city administrator
And make the motion to authorize the city administrator to do this.
to make the budget.
Yes.
Sorry, budget modification.
Budget modifications.
I second that motion.
There's an motion and a second to approve the purchase of a newer bucket truck. And any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess, is there any administration report items?
I have no administration reports.
Then we'll move on to another general public comment. If anyone would like to speak, this is another opportunity to hear from the public. If no one wants to and we're not signed in, then we will move into the administration final touches. I got none? And so, our next meeting will be Monday, April 25th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.